"13 Women" is a psychological thriller about a bizarre string of murders, suicides, and tragic accidents that all befall a group of women who were once sisters in a sorority in finishing school. It's one of the earliest examples of a movie about a killer, and it's a big influence on genres of psycho-style thrillers and later on slasher movies. 13 Women was based on a book, and of course there were some changes. The biggest of which is that there's not actually 13 women in the movie, but only 11. Apparently scenes containing the fates of numbers 12 and 13 were cut from the movie and apparently lost. Anyway, this is a rather short film. It's just a shade under an hour long, and everything moves along very quickly. The movie ends and begins abruptly and chugs along at a quick pace, with very little time for characterization or suspense. And considering the era this film came out in, the suddenness of the characters' deaths were probably shocking at the time. But today you kind of wish you had time to care about the characters, or at least know who they are before they die. The story goes that these 13 women, well, 11, but the movie always says 13, all went to the same finishing school, and they're still friends years later in adulthood. They keep in touch, and they get the idea from their old headmistress to send out a round-robin letter to a psychic to have their fortunes told via correspondence. This is done for fun, but every single one of them gets a horrific horoscope saying death will strike them soon, either at their own hands or at the hands of someone they know. The first death is clearly an accident. A trapeze artist falls to her death after her sister fails to catch her, but her sister was so worked up and nervous about the prediction that this is probably what caused her fatal mistake. And that's what this movie is really about. It's about the power of suggestion and the self-fulfilling prophecy. The psychic himself is being manipulated by a hypnotic woman named Ursula who went to the same school briefly, but was outed as biracial and basically bullied out of the school. Now she wants revenge, and she's using her knowledge of hypnosis and mysticism to manipulate the psychic, and therefore the women. She even has the psychic kill himself just to get him out of the way. The psychic also predicted her own death on a train, but she disregards this as nonsense because she regards the psychic as a fraud, and she's the one pulling the strings. As more and more women are killed, commit suicide, or die horribly in some other way, one of them hangs on to her adamant belief in the rational, and this causes Ursula problems as she can't seem to target this woman with her hypnosis because of her strong will. So she tries to kill her son, but in sloppy ways, like sending poison candy or an exploding ball. In the end, she just tries to kill the old-fashioned way, on a train. But by this time, the police have caught up with her, and in trying to run, she falls from the train, presumably to her death, fulfilling the psychic's prediction. It's up to the viewer to decide whether or not he was actually a psychic, or whether this was an example of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Anyway, this is certainly not a bad movie, and it's certainly a very important piece of film history, but my issue with it is that it's an hour long, and everything happens so quickly that you can't take the time to think about the story. It just happens. For example, the reveal of Ursula as the mastermind behind everything could have been a great mystery that could have been revealed more towards the end, but it's made patently obvious a few minutes in what she's up to. Another issue is, and this has more to do with when it came out than anything, but goddamn, is this movie racist or what? Ursula is referred to constantly as a half-breed, and it seems all her life she was treated as only half human because she's only half white. And even though Laura, the last living woman, admits that as children the girls were petty and cruel to her, the thing is, this so-called half-breed character is the one to go nuts and start murdering everybody. It's just the slightest bit unsettling. Though a lot of the more offensive parts of the book were removed, the book wasn't only racist, but homophobic and sexist as well. I don't count this stuff too much against the movie. It's a product of the 30s, and so was the book. I just want to mention it for anyone that has the idea to watch this movie and is easily offended. For all of its flaws, 13 Women is not uninteresting, it's just really missing all that extra footage. Nearly 15 minutes from what I understand. It was snipped out before its release. What's interesting is that the character of Hazel Cousins was played by a young actress named Peg Entwistle, who apparently committed suicide shortly after the movie came out, eerily echoing the strange events of the films. It does give a bit of extra creepiness to the film. Anyway, Good, but not great. It has its flaws, and it's clearly rushed, and it was very clearly done on the cheap. I give it a 6 out of 10.